On Tech News Today, new evidence emerges that Apple may ship its iWatch very soon. Plus, HP shocks Wall Street with real revenue growth. Google Wave makes a comeback, and Apple's going to help you remember where you parked your car. All that and more coming up right now on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, August 21st, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. Jason Howell is in the house.
Oh, hey, here I am.
Over there.
How's it going?
Good. I'm so glad you're here because if you weren't here, this would be a really nothing would be happening.
The screen would just go black.
That's right. And speaking of people who aren't here, Elise Hugh is our normal Thursday co-anchor, but she is actually working on assignment in Ferguson, covering the whole Ferguson story. She's dodging tear gas and running around town covering one of the biggest stories in the world right now. And so she couldn't join us today, but she'll be back next Thursday and probably will have some interesting stories to tell us.
I'm sure she will.
So we hope that she is safe and gets out of there pretty soon and back to her tech beat. She's not even covering the tech angle as far as I know. But if you'd like to follow her missives from Ferguson, you can follow her on Twitter. She's at Elise Who. That's Elise W-H-O. So Who as in Who Done It, even though her last name is spelled H-U. Well, let's get to the news. New evidence emerged today from analyst and investor Matt Margolis that Apple plans to ship its long-rumored iWatch very soon. Matt Margolis is a senior analyst for PTT Research, and he joins us now by phone. Welcome, Matt.
How's it going, Mike? Thanks for having me on the show today.
So glad you're on. Now, what evidence did you uncover about the timing of Apple's iWatch?
Well, the latest filing was an application for production inside Mesa to actually ship what it looks like to be jewelry sapphire. Previously, in February, there was a report that got put out indicating that they were going to be producing sapphire for the phone. And the latest filing indicates an additional kind of a SKU number, which falls into the jewelry category. So it looks like that plant, wants to get this thing going in August to get production going, which means shipment would actually probably resume or become involved.
So in other words, companies that make things, manufacture things in factories have to be in communication with regulators, and one of those regulators is the U.S. Department of Commerce, and Apple sent a letter talking about Sapphire, talking about an urgent August ship date, essentially, and referring to it as jewelry. They didn't have to specify what it was exactly. Now, isn't it possible that they could be making these Sapphire parts in advance for shipping a device maybe next year or something like that? I mean, we've heard rumors that the iWatch would ship this year. We've also heard rumors that it'll ship next year. Do you think there's any possibility that they're just going to be making the parts and stockpiling them?
Given Apple's just-in-time inventory process, it really doesn't make sense for this vendor, GT Advanced Technology, to be growing sapphire, cutting it, and then storing it for a long period of time. Apple really wants this stuff on hand when they need it. So my thought here is GT might be holding it themselves, but when these shipments go out, they're going right onto the device. So at this point, I would expect assembly to really begin in September, and probably a launch sometime in mid-November would be expected at this point.
Now, you cover Sapphire, Apple Sapphire manufacturing closer than anyone I know. In fact, your Twitter handle is Sapphire Cover 24. That's how intimately related you are to this ongoing topic. Now, can you tell us more about this facility that Apple has built, the scale of what they're doing, and exactly what they're doing that's different from other Sapphire manufacturing?
Yeah, so through my research, right now the most plants hold 100 to 150 sapphire growing furnaces. This facility is 1.3 million square feet. Right now we're estimating a total inside that facility is 2,600 to 3,000 furnaces, which makes it about 30 times bigger than any other sapphire growing manufacturing plant in the entire world. So the scale is ginormous. And also, what's inside is, GT has specific furnaces that can grow sapphire bulls larger than 200 kilograms, maybe even as big as 265 to even 300 kilograms. So these are, 500-600 pound bulls that will get produced from this facility, which that size alone is twice the size of any other sapphire bull that can be grown in volume anywhere across the world. So the scale of the facility is huge. The furnaces that they're using and their ability to grow these giant bulls make them unique, which is why the cost structure makes it advantageous for GT and for Apple to adopt these sapphire screens, both for the watch and the phone.
Now, you talk about growing sapphire and you talk about boules. Just to clarify, for those who are unfamiliar with the process for making sapphire, you essentially grow this big sort of wheel-shaped, it kind of looks like a gigantic semi-clear skateboard wheel, and then they carve out the screens from it, and then those are, of course, polished and put in the manufacturing process. Now, Matt Margolis, the rumors about sapphire on iPhones, again, switching to iPhones rather than the iWatch, has been all over the map. Some say that one of the phones will have it, the other one won't, etc. What is your prediction about which Apple phones will have sapphire screens and when?
I expect both phones. My latest analysis based on guidance from a few companies that I follow that will be involved, new suppliers within the iPhone and the iWatch. They're looking at penciling in an October launch at this point, given the guidance, because it take about 15 to 30 days for the units, the revenue recognition to the point of assembly and sale. So at this point, I'm targeting a early October or mid-October sale date for the iPhone 6, and I expect both devices to have sapphire. The biggest mystery has been, this facility has been running since January growing sapphire. And they got our original start date in January. They went in March. They added more, and they've ramped up. They have about 1,200 furnaces running as of June, based on the filing through my analysis. And the biggest mystery is how much stock do they have on hand, because they really haven't shipped much into the supply chain, but I believe they're holding it until the last minute to surprise everybody. And that's really the mystery and the mystique of when this phone will arrive, is how much is in that stockpile and how much can they ramp up this facility, which is expected to hit full stride really in September, and then by the time 2015 comes to really be humming at full speed.
Now, it sounds like I hear birds singing. You're either calling from a very lovely location or from an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Where are you?
I'm in upstate New York at an undisclosed location outside, enjoying the fine weather up there.
All right, wonderful. Matt Margolis is at wallstreetforensics.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at SapphireCover24. Thank you so much, Matt Margolis, for coming on Tech News today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. Hewlett-Packard yesterday surprised Wall Street by posting an unexpected increase in revenue. More surprising still is that almost all of the gains came from the company's PC unit, which climbed 12%. Julie Bort writes about technology for Business Insider. Welcome to you, Julie Bort.
Hello. Hi.
So glad you're here. Now, what did HP report, and what were analysts expecting?
Well, HP reported a jump in revenues, which hasn't happened in 3 years. So analysts were expecting another decline in revenues. So it was a pretty surprisingly great quarter for HP. But there were some underlying things happening that still indicate that the company, has a ways to go before it's really back on its feet.
Well, okay, let's jump right into that. I think you're referring primarily to layoffs, aren't you?
Well, yeah, and these layoffs are dragging on and on and on. And they're really affecting the amount of profit the company is dropping to the bottom line. And investors seem to be getting a little over that. They would like, it seems to me that they would like HP to wrap up the layoffs as quickly as possible. But now, instead of wrapping up in 2014, as HP had promised when they launched the layoffs 2 years ago, it's going to drag into 2015.
Yeah, normally when companies report layoffs for their earnings reports, it's like, oh, this only happens once in a blue moon, but this happens pretty much every quarter, and they've laid off a lot of people. But a lot of people don't realize how many employees HP actually has. It's something on the order of 325,000 employees. There are countries that are smaller than that in population. Now, why were HP's PC sales so good? I mean, PCs worldwide are not going that well. They're not growing that fast for sure. And a lot of the growth is in emerging markets like China. But HP's China sales and Russian sales for PCs have been really terrible. So why are their PC sales numbers so good?
Well, their PC sales numbers were good in the U.S. and Europe last quarter and the quarter before. And a lot of that had to do with XP expiring. And so companies have waited to the last possible minute to upgrade their XP machines. So there's been a big rush the past couple of quarters for companies to move from XP to a newer version of Windows, which is mostly Windows 7 is what they're doing in the enterprise, not Windows 8. And so HP saw a really great upside from that, but it doesn't seem sustainable, is what analysts were asking HP. It's just not going to be an endless rush to upgrade XP machines quarter after quarter. And so analysts aren't convinced that these giant HP PC sales is the new norm yet. It might have been a 1 or 2 quarter hit wonder.
Is HP's CEO Meg Whitman turning around the company? How do you think she's doing?
She's really well liked within the company. Employees like her a lot. And she seems genuine. She speaks well. She seems every quarter she gets a bigger and bigger handle on this sprawling company of HP that makes everything from, memory chips to, PCs and servers and giant R&D. So she seems to be getting a bigger and bigger handle on what HP does and where they need to cut. And I personally think that she's doing a good job, but it's dragging on a long time. I mean, what analysts want to see is they want to see that revenue growth. And they want to see some of these troubled units like HPES, Enterprise Services, the EDS company that HP bought several years ago. They want to see that cleaned up and doing well.
Julie Bort writes at businessinsider.com, and you can follow her at Julie188. Thank you so much for joining us today on Tech News Today. Well, in just a minute, we're going to tell you about an old friend who's come back from the grave. But first, I want to tell you about Squarespace, the greatest place in the world to build a website, especially a blog, especially a personal branding website of any kind. And that can include a blog or just be a blog. You need to market yourself. You are the brand now. If you want to move up in the world and in your career, you're going to want a website that tells about your interests, your professional interests, your ideas, and essentially brags about you and your career and what you have to offer to the world. And Squarespace is a great place to do that. They have amazing SEO built right out of the box. You don't have to do anything to have great SEO. Now, what is SEO? SEO means search engine optimization. If you want to rank highly, you write about something. Let's say you write about sapphire screens, and you want your website to come up when people search for the word sapphire and screen together. Squarespace will help you with that automatically, which is a really nice thing for people who don't want to be mucking around with their website all the time. They just want to put in the content, they want to build the website, and then have everything else happen automatically. And of course, Squarespace has beautiful designs, 25 of them. You start with one of these great designs, you add your own pictures, you can change anything about it. Super easy to do. But if you do need help, their help is available 24/7 by chat or email. Even their code is beautiful. Of course, Squarespace looks beautiful on the outside, but their code is really elegant and well written. And they're mobile friendly. Mobile friendly for you because you can monitor and manage your site with a mobile device, and mobile friendly for the people who come to your site because your site will look fantastic on a phone or a tablet. So what are you waiting for? Start a free 2-week trial. No credit card required, and start building your website today. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT. Yeah, use the offer code TNT because that will get you 10% off. And let Squarespace know that you heard it right here on Tech News Today. Remember Google Wave? 4 years ago, Google closed the social communication service to start working on Google+. It was an innovative site, and it gained a lot of fans. And now GigaOm's David Meyer reports that Google Wave is making something like a comeback, but not from Google. David's with us now to explain. Welcome, David.
Hi.
And of course, David is Skyping in from Berlin. Before we get into the news here, can you remind us of what Google Wave was and is?
Well, Google Wave was a platform for collaboration, for chat, for document sharing, and all sorts of other things that Google found it quite hard to explain, I think, at the time. And it just never really took off, and it ended up using some of the technology and other things like Google Docs. Things like, where you can see the other person who you're collaborating with type, that made it into Google Docs from Wave. But when they axed the project, and remember, Google was axing all kinds of projects back at the time as it was preparing for its big Google Plus push where it would bring everything together. They liberated the code, as it were. They open sourced it, gave it to the Apache project, who spent the last few years developing it, but in a way that meant that you kind of had to run your own service to use it.
Now, if I recall, Google Wave was kind of like a hybrid, for the most part, if you didn't modify it or customize it, between sort of email and chat. You can do a message, but then like Google Docs, like a Google Doc, spreadsheet, or a Google Doc word processing document, you could see the other people you're communicating with. You could see them make changes in real time as they type things. You saw it on your screen, so it was very real time, very innovative, as you say. Now this has been, as you reported, ported to a platform called Sandstorm. What is Sandstorm?
Sandstorm, they're currently crowdfunding. It's headed up by a guy called Kenton Vada, who's an ex-Googler, actually. And it's kind of a personal cloud platform. Rather neat idea. I really like the idea a lot, where you can, instead of having to run your own server, for all these kind of decentralized apps that people are coming up with, and for indie web apps, you can actually kind of have a virtual server that is hosted by Sandstorm, or it could be hosted by others as well. Ideally, there would be some competition between hosts, or you can install it yourself. And there's a demo that you can use, that you can run, and it will, as you will see there, that you can just click once, and you've installed an app, and you can install all these apps. They can talk to each other. And altogether, I think it's a really exciting project that could give kind of indie apps a way to compete with something like Google Apps, these kind of more packaged combinations of apps. You can have various indie web apps that give you sort of more control over your data, more privacy, and they can all talk to each other. And I think it's all rather exciting. I think it is difficult to position, though, and they are crowdfunding. They're crowdfunding rather slowly. Their goal is only $50,000, I think, and they're still not all the way there after about a month, which I think is a shame.
Well, hopefully people listening to this program will check it out, and if you like it, maybe you'll help them reach their crowdfunding goals. Now, do you think that Sandstorm is something that's easy to use? Is it something that novices should use, or is this for technical developer type people?
Well, that's the thing that I like about it. It is super easy to use. It is something where you can, if they get the UI right, you can just click and you've installed an app and it's working, and it spins up very, very quickly. They've got sort of rather clever way of doing fine-grained instances. So yeah, it's something that a complete novice can use, and it's something that a techie can take advantage of as well, because as I say, they can install it and kind of run it off their own server, as it were, or in theory, it's something that your grandmother could use.
My grandmother's going to really like to hear that news. She loves this kind of thing. David Meyer writes at gigaom.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Superglaze. Thank you so much for joining us, David Meyer.
Pleasure.
All right. Well, speaking of Google rolled out today a new integration between advertising and apps. Barry Schwartz wrote about the news for his Search Engine Roundtable blog and joins us now. Welcome, Barry Schwartz.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us about how this new ad format works?
Sure. It's called app promotion ads, and these ads will basically show up on your mobile devices when you are doing either a search in Google on your mobile device, or if you're looking at a YouTube video or on one of Google's display ad networks. Basically, as an advertiser, you might want to go ahead and promote the apps that you have built. So using Google's ad network, you're able to actually go ahead and plug in these ads called ad promotion ads, and they will display on either searches or on YouTube ads saying, you don't have this app, please install it. Or if you already do have the app, it's going to say, this app is installed. Why don't you re-engage with the app by clicking here and start using it?
Isn't this the same offering that appeared in the AdMob mobile network in June? What's different today?
It's just rolled today. It's exactly the same thing that launched in June. Today, it's just rolling out globally to anybody who wants to use it within the network.
And the ad format works for both Android and iOS devices. And on Android, an ad for the app won't show if the app is already installed. So it knows if the app is installed, which is pretty cool. But what happens when the app is uninstalled? So you have it, then you don't have it. Will you still see the ads, or are they gone forever?
So once a user on Android uninstalls the app, they will be automatically added back to the targeting. So they will start seeing the ad again. So
this is obviously a trend. I mean, Facebook and Twitter came out with similar offerings. Is this any different from those in terms of how it works, the mechanics of it, or is this pretty much the same thing?
It's pretty much the same thing. Each one has somewhat different ways of targeting. Obviously, with search, you could target based off a keyword. With YouTube, you could target based off of different metrics as well. And with Twitter and Facebook, they all have the different metrics in terms of what you can actually target off of. But similar, it's pretty much a similar type of concept.
Barry Schwartz writes at seroundtable.com, and you can also find him at rustybrick.com. And where else can people read your stuff, Barry?
I'm also the news editor at Search Engine Land, Danny Sullivan's site.
Wonderful. And, of course, you can follow Barry Schwartz on Twitter as well. His Twitter name is Rusty Brick. Thanks for joining us, Barry.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thanks to smartphone GPS and services like Google Now, it's easier than ever to remember where you parked your car, except when it isn't. Sometimes parking garages can keep you from having a data connection, and they almost always block out GPS. Well, today, Apple Insider's Mikey Campbell reports on 2 new Apple patents that could solve the parking problem. Welcome to you, Mikey.
How's it going, Mike? Oh, that was pretty quiet.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mikey?
Yep. Can you hear
there
me?
we go. Yeah, it was super quiet the first time. But
can
we
you
got
hear me
you
now? It sounds like a Verizon commercial. So can you tell us about these patents?
Yeah, actually, it's 2 patents. They're kind of combined together into one idea. Is basically an iPhone user enters the car. The iPhone will determine that the car is moving, and when it parks, it'll start tracking the user device using onboard sensors. This is actually kind of a solution for places where there's weak cell reception or GPS reception.
Now, what sensors are they using? I mean, they're not using, assuming that the GPS sensor is out and assuming there's no data connection, what sensors could be possibly put into use that would enable somebody to get back to their car, enable the phone to know where the car is?
Well, one of the interesting embodiments, or one of the interesting ideas that the patent has, is using the accelerometer to measure speed, direction, and distance over time. So it would basically be kind of following you around by interpreting that data from the accelerometer.
Now, obviously, Apple can easily build this into its operating system, into its phones, but doesn't it need support from the car? Don't the cars have to be set up in some special way?
Exactly, and that kind of is where CarPlay comes into the picture. It could be it's just speculation, but it could be that Apple would use some sort of integration with CarPlay, to actually roll something like this out. It actually makes sense as far as the whole Apple iOS device ecosystem is concerned.
Okay, so this is great news for car thieves, isn't it? Because all they need to steal is the keys and a phone, and they can find the car. Or do you think that there's going to be some way for Apple to prevent that from happening?
I'm sure they're thinking of something, but that wasn't mentioned in the patent at all. So right now, it's anybody's guess.
All right, Mikey Campbell's at appleinsider.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at MikeyCampbell81. Thanks for joining us, Mikey.
Thank you.
All right, well, we got an email from TNT fan Henry Lavanini, who commented on our story this week about Xiaomi and how it's clearly copying Apple. He said the following: I believe you speculated whether Xiaomi might hesitate to enter the U.S. market because Apple might be in a stronger position to defend its patents here. For my 2 cents worth, I think Xiaomi has Seen that with enough money and a good team of lawyers, any company can blatantly copy any patent and get away with it, just like Samsung did. Well, it's an interesting commentary, and I'm sure some Samsung fans and Android fans will have a reply and send those to TNT@twit.tv.
I'm going to be receiving the Mi 4 actually this weekend.
Fantastic.
So we're going to have one in-house. So when the new version of the MIUI releases, we can make some point-by-point comparisons.
So will you be able to wave that around on the Monday TNT? And then,
I think so.
And then you'll review it on before you buy?
Yeah, that's the plan before you buy, and all about Android as well.
Wonderful. Well, in a follow-up, we told you about the recent hack attack from China of the U.S. hospital group Community Health Systems. Now the FBI has issued a warning to the entire healthcare industry that the industry itself might be targeted. A special notice obtained by Reuters quoted the FBI saying, quote, these actors have, apparently actors are doing the hacking, these actors have also been targeting multiple companies in the healthcare and medical device industry, typically targeting valuable intellectual property, such as medical device and equipment development data, unquote. Well, in other news, the Sydney Morning Herald newspaper is reporting that IKEA is using Airbnb to let people do something you know you've always wanted to do. Sleep overnight in one of those beds on the IKEA showroom. The idea is a publicity stunt for a store in Tempe, Australia, and they'll accommodate only 3 groups of up to 4 guests per group for one night only. That's Sunday, August 31st. But before turning in, the guests will get a big dinner in the IKEA cafeteria, probably meatballs or something like that. And they'll also get tips for how to use IKEA to make their homes more Airbnb friendly. So it sounds like a sort of a joint promotion between Airbnb and IKEA. It's totally brilliant. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Joey Cohen in Austin, Texas, who posted this picture on Google+. The picture was taken below deck of his liveaboard boat called the Enterprise. He's apparently on a 5-year mission. Here's an external shot of the Enterprise. It's got some really fancy lights, and it's a really cool thing. He's got, in fact, his Google+. There should be another link in there. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
No, I'll find it.
Okay. He's got this really cool boat. He's got a ton of really great pictures in there, and he's a big fan of Twitch shows, including Tech News Today, so we appreciate that. There it is. It's an auto awesome.
Yeah, nice little neon splash on the side there.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Joey. So how do you watch or listen to TNT? Just take a picture of your setup, post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowDoYouWatchTNT, and we'll find it. You can also search the hashtag HowDoYouWatchTNT, and you can see them all for yourself right now. Well, that's the Tech News Today. Subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, RSS. So many options. Choose your favorite at twit.tv/TNT. And you can find us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. Please send us your thoughts and opinions as well. TNT@twit.tv is our email address, and 260-TNT-SHOW is our phone number. Call and leave a message. We might play it on the air. Also, don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.